This is The Memory Palace. I'm Nate DiMeo. Edward Luckmeyer wasn't expecting the $10,000. He was in the import-export business, European textiles, so he was used to taxes and tariffs, and would surely grumble about paying them, but still they hadn't prevented him from becoming a millionaire many times over, there in the early 1870s, when being a millionaire many times over really meant something. But in those times, not long after the Civil War, and just before Mark Twain would look around, take in those times with his writer's eye, and proclaim them the Gilded Age. In those times, in that Gilded Age, the government that collected those taxes and set those tariffs seemed determined to silence even the most necessary grumbles of America's multimillionaires. Thus, Mr. Luckmeyer got a check. He hadn't asked for it. He wasn't expecting it. Every other time he just paid the tax, padded his many millions that little bit less, likely grumbled a bit while that little bit went to roads or canals or sanitation or social welfare or what have you. And that was that. But something had changed policy-wise, and who was he to complain? And with such a windfall, what does a man who had many millions do with 10,000 extra dollars in 1873, when the average man, unloading crates of his Scottish wool in the damp and the cold at the docks, 12, 14 hours a day, earned about 75 cents for that day's work? 73 people, bejeweled women, top-hatted men, walked into the dining room of Delmonico's on 14th Street. They had all been there before. The restaurant had been a mainstay of high society almost since the day it had opened up its doors some 40 years before. Dinner at Delmonico's was one of New York's must-have experiences for visitors like Charles Dickens, the opera singer Jenny Lind, Abraham Lincoln, Napoleon III, and after the war it became the place to throw a costume ball or coming-out party. And just about every day you could find bankers and railroad men and war profiteers still flush and diversifying, at lavish lunches, splashing about money new and old. But for days prior to this dinner party on this evening in 1873, no one had eaten there at all. The place had been closed, as the staff at Delmonico's prepared for this one event, paid for by Edward Luckmeyer with his $10,000, who gave the restaurant free rein and made one request: spend all of it. They built a massive table and nearly filled the room, leaving just enough space for the 73 diners and for waitstaff to maneuver as they served them. 8 courses, each paired with the finest wines, because when you are spending the equivalent of 200,000 contemporary dollars on a single dinner, you get the finest wines. And you get a pond 30 feet across in the center of the table, upon which 4 swans, taken from a pond in Prospect Park to swim around in one in the center of a table while humans ate duck and goose, right before the palate-cleansing sorbet, and then the duo of beef and lamb, and on and on. Between the pond in the center and the plates at the edge, the table was turned into some sort of sylvan fairyland, landscaped with rolling hills draped with moss brought up on freight trains from the south, because that's where you get your moss apparently. There were flowers, live violets, miniature fields of them, yellow roses, more than 400 of them, bought at $1 a stem. Each stem cost more than the average man or woman in Manhattan then would get for a day spent stitching napkins, or polishing silver, or bundling roses, or sanding and staining the legs of chairs upon which 73 people might sit as they ate and ate and ate and ate. And lift glasses, each tied with a helium balloon, just invented then, such a marvel then, and toasted to President Grant, and to, this is a quote, "our country, the land of true liberty and the refuge of the oppressed." And in the spirit of true liberty, many diners freed those balloons, untied them from their glasses, and delighted as they floated up among and above the golden cages, Tiffany cages, that hung from the ceiling, in which songbirds sang. Most of them exploded, the balloons, not the birds, as they floated too close to the gas lamps. And the popping startled the swans, trapped beneath their own gilded cage. At one point 2 swans fought. At another point 2 swans tried to fornicate. And at that point, it was reported, 4 women fainted at the sight of the mating swans. Though was it performative prudery, or was it corsets, and 8 courses, and 8 glasses of wine, and the smoke of cigars, and the cacophony of diners, 8 courses and 8 glasses in, shouting over the noise? And what of the help? The waiters and bussers, the singer who sang, the staff in the kitchen, the inflators of balloons, who'd seen other spectacles, seen excess, seen the wealthy act wealthy, seen evenings wear on when people got sloppy and sentimental and crass and entitled and glassy-eyed and just loud. But they'd never seen swans swimming at their workplace. Had never seen $10,000 spent on a single meal. And what of the swans? It is said of swans, of ducks too, but the ducks in this story were served before the sorbet. It is said of swans that they are the picture of grace above the water. But underneath the surface, they are furiously paddling. And so how would the swans perceive these creatures on the outside of the cage? All furious flapping on the surface, and nothing underneath. This episode of The Memory Palace is produced and written and stuff by me, Nate DiMeo, with research assistance from Eliza McGraw. This show is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX. We get our ad music from the mighty J.D. Sampson. A lot of interesting things going on here at The Memory Palace. I'm looking forward to telling you guys about them. So stay close. Follow me on Twitter at The Memory Palace, on Facebook at The Memory Palace. You can always drop me a line at nate@thememorypalace.us.
Radiotopia.